Hello and welcome back to Joe's Math Tools. In our session today, we are calculating the percentage increase. And this video is part 1 on my 3-part series on how to calculate the percentage increase. So let's get started. In our first example, we're going to be calculating the increase of 80 by 72%. That means that after I've calculated whatever percentage 72% is of 80, I'm now going to increase or add that amount to my 80 to find out exactly how much did this 80 increase by the 72%. So let's start by first calculating what is exactly our 72% of our 80. So that's the first thing that we're going to need to do so that we can find out exactly what is this amount we're adding to 80. And I'm going to now change my 72% into its fraction form by writing it over 100. And we're going to simplify at this point, so I'm going to be dividing both my 80 and my 100 by 20. So 80 divided by 20 will equal to 4. And when 100 is divided by 20, that will equal to 5. So now that I can't simplify my fractions any further, I'm now going to be multiplying my 72 times 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 7 is 28. And also for my persons who may not be good with simplifying fraction, remember that you can still just multiply your 80 by 72 and then you can reduce by dividing by your 100 afterwards. So you don't have to feel as if you still have to simplify the fraction and then multiply. You can multiply your numbers out and then divide afterwards, and that is completely fine. So we're now going to be dividing our 5 into 288. So 5 can divide into 2. We'll write in our 0. 5 goes into 28 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25. 28 minus 25 gives us a difference of 3. We're going to bring down our 8, changing our 3 into 38. 5 goes into 38 7 times. 7 times 5 is 35. 38 minus 35 will give us a difference of 3. I'm going to now add in my decimal points so that I can get a more accurate, total on my percentage. So I'm going to add in a 0, bring down that 0, changing my 3 into 30. 5 goes into 30 6 times. 6 times 5 is 30, and 30 minus 30 is 0. Okay, so when 288 is divided by 5, we get 57.6. Okay, so now let's calculate our increase. And increase means that our 80 should be getting larger, and it's going to be getting larger by adding the 57.6 to that 80. And remember, when we are adding numbers where decimals is involved, remember that we do not line up our digits or our numbers, but rather we line up our decimal points. And you must remember that with your whole numbers, that your decimal point is always behind that last digit. So whatever that digit is in your whole number, that decimal point is going to come after that digit. So now let's sum these numbers together, and I'm going to put in a 0 above my 6 to help with my addition. So my 0 is there as a placeholder. So 0 plus 6 is 6. 0 plus 7 is 7. 8 plus 5 is 13. And we're going to drop our decimal point right down from where it is. Okay, so my total has increased to 137.6. Okay, so let's try another example. Feel free at this point to pause the video, calculate how much your 330 is increased by, and then when you're ready you can unpause the video and work along with me to see if we got the exact same answer. Okay, so let's begin by finding out exactly what is our 90% of 330 so that we can know what is the amount that we're going to be adding to this 330 at the end of this question. So I'm going to put back my 330, multiplying it to 90 as a fraction. And for this question, let's multiply our numbers out. Remember that you can add your 1 if you need to. If not, you can leave it off. That is completely fine. Some persons are able to work without it. And you notice that in the first example, I did not include it. But if you still need to add in your 1, please feel free to do that. Remember, we are all working at different paces. So 0 times 0 is 0. 0 times 3 is 0. And 0 times 3 is 0. We're going to add in a 0, and now we are going to be multiplying by our 9. So 9 times 0 is 0. 9 times 3 is 27. Put our 7, carry the 2. 9 times 3 is 27. Plus 2 will give us 29. And I know that some of you may be looking at this question and wonder why I didn't simplify. I'm going to multiply for this part of the question first, and then afterwards I will still work the example again and show you how you could have simplified this question. So for my persons who are good with simplifying, the working would have been a whole lot more easier for you. So for my persons who are good with simplifying, I'll also perform that working afterwards so that you can see how simplifying your fractions ultimately does make multiplying fractions a lot easier for you. So 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 7 is 7. And I'm going to bring down my 9 and my 2 since they're not being added to anything. So we now have 29,700 being divided by our 100, because when 1 is multiplied to 100, it is 100. So I'm now going to be dividing my 100 into my 29,700. So 100 can divide into 2. 100 can divide into 29, so we'll add a 0. 100 divides into 297 2 times. 2 times 100 is 200. 297 minus 200 is 97. We'll bring down a 0, changing 97 into 970. 100 divides into 970 9 times. 9 times 100 is 900. 970 minus 900 is 70. We'll bring down our 0, changing our 70 into 700. 100 divides into 700 7 times, and 7 times 100 is 700. Okay, so we got 297 when 100 divided into 29,700. Okay, so and again, remember I'm going to now work through our methods for simplifying, and for my persons who are good with simplifying, you're going to see how being able or using that skill is going to help when it comes to multiplying fractions, especially when you have a lot of these numbers that can be divided by 10. It does make your work so much more easier. So I'm going to be dividing my 330 by 10 and dividing my 100 by 10. So 330 divided by 10 will give you 33, and 100 when divided by 10 will equal to 10. And now I'm going to be reducing my 90 and 10 by also dividing both of those numbers by 10. So I'm going to return my 33 over 1 back, and then 90 divided by 10 will equal to 9, and 10 divided by 10 will equal to 1. So we now have our 33 being multiplied to our 9. So 9 times 3 is 7. Carry the 2. 29 times 3 is 27 again. Plus 2 will give us 29. And as you can see, we still got our 297. But again, the steps are a little different. And once you are better at reducing your fractions, remember that you won't have to write this step that I did here. You could just perform all of that reducing within this first step, but I usually like to write my numbers back so that it'll make it a lot easier and smoother to follow your steps when you are reducing your fractions. So now that we got our 297, we're now going to calculate how much did my 330 increase by when this amount was added. So my 330 will be added to my 297. And 7 plus 0 is 7. 3 plus 9 is 12. We put our 2, carry the 1. One plus 3 is 4. 4 plus 2 is 6. So our increase on 330 was to 627. Okay, so there you have it. We just calculated the increase on two separate numbers. Remember that it's just like multiplying fractions, or whenever you are calculating the quantity or the percentage of a quantity, the steps are exactly the same. The only difference that you need to remember is that after calculating your amount or the percentage of the amount from your quantity, you are now adding that to that total that you started with to find out exactly what was the increase on that amount. So remember that you have to practice, strengthen your skills, and when you're ready, remember to look out for part 2 on how to calculate the increase on a given amount. And until next time, this is Joe's Math Tools, where math is made easy.